From winter, regular season, all the way to the summer finals, we have had a wild and exhilarating year of LEC, but I won't mince words, I won't lie to you, it's also been pretty friggin' messy. We've had throws, we've had upsets, we've had embarrassments, and everything in between. A sure thing can turn into a sure loss in the blink of an eye, and nothing really feels certain. Now there are 6 teams remaining, 6 teams who have shown us incredible ceilings, glimpses of brilliance, greater promise, the taste of top-level performance. But not a single one of them has been above criticism or doubt. Hell, G2 hold all 3 of our split shields, but they're fallible, they can fail, we've seen it before. The field is as open as it's ever been. 8 best of 5s are all that remain for our top teams to find their footing, to show us how great they can be. G2, Fnatic, BDS, MDK, SK, and GX. We've seen each and every single one of them fall down, make mistakes, slip up. But the only question today is, and the only question that matters in our season finals, is who will rise? Welcome back to the LEC, live from the Riot Games Arena in Berlin, Germany. I'm Dracos, joined here at the zone, desk, wall by Goldberg and Aragon. It has many names, all of them not important. What is important is we have 6 teams left, and it's now Goldberg's job to tell us how they got here.
What a smooth transition, Dracos. That was incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you explained it as well in your little cold open as well. We do have those 6 teams, so it's made it all the way here. It's quite simple how they got here, really. G2 won every single split we'd had so far, which meant that Fnatic and BDS, they had to qualify by being top 3 in summer, and the rest was really just championship points, which was the consistency throughout all of the splits.
And that leaves us with a pretty interesting bracket. Of course, you're familiar with our old format here in the LEC, the previous one before this one. You might recognize it. It's old playoffs. Aragon, break it down for us.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it, right? And I'm looking at the bottom bracket. It screams to me how close the whole thing actually is. You look at Giant X, I think that's the biggest evidence of this, and they even went 1-2 versus BDS and Fnatic. So it just shows, I feel like, in my opinion, that most teams can contest at least top 3.
Yeah, and it's also what's running for that world spot as well, but contrary to popular belief, you need to make top 2 to get to worlds, at least as a guarantee, because right now G2 has already qualified through summer. So even if MDK were to win and make it into that top 3 spot, they haven't made it yet, because G2 retained the top 3 spot.
Yeah, if G2 drop out, you got to be top 2. If they're in, it could go as far as top 3, but we'll just have to see how it unfolds for now. Of course, there's another update, patch 14.15. You might have seen it in other regions, but it's the first time we'll be seeing it in LEC. And who better to break down the newest addition, Aurora, than our own little bunny boy himself, Finn. Take it away.
Oh my god. Thanks, Dracos. If you're seeing this champion for the first time, you might want to go and check out lec.gg/Aurora for more information. While the newest champion added is called Aurora, she's this close-range mobile battle mage who tries to keep you at an arm's length at all time. I mean, I want to think like Vayne, if Vayne was like a burst mage with an AoE magic damage nuke, Jarvan ult. Yeah, okay. Aurora works well in either solo lane, but I think she's more suited to the top lane, where her range allows her to bully out whomever dares to enter her peripheral. And here I want you to see me in solo queue traumatizing a poor Fiora, just because I can show you it. With a quick Q auto Q trade, you slowly chip your opponent down until a potential kill angle will appear. And if they would dare to trade back like this girl did, you have 2 abilities to disengage and space enough until your second Q rotation is up. And while her laning is obnoxious, her ult is going to be the real killer, as I'll show you here. I'm going to ult her, I'm going to teleport right next to her, wait out her W, and then just finish off with a clean Q auto Q. And that is just how broken that champion is. So when the bunny does the fun and locks you inside of her, it's pretty hard to play safe. I have another clip I really want to show you. It's from the world champion Deft. He won Worlds 2022, if you remember. I'm gonna let it speak for itself. Yeah, that's a toughie. That's a toughie. I don't think he knew what that champion did. This is the item builds that are on your screen right now. If you want to go and try out in solo queue, I think you should. I think you should go on first time here. Like, honestly, who cares? Maybe your teammates does, but I don't. So I think that's enough for me, and I want to throw it back to you, Dracos. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Finn. I appreciate all of your funny bunny puns. I don't think Deft appreciated getting one shot, and I can't imagine many of our players will appreciate getting one shot today. We'll see if Aurora is going to show up in Fnatic versus BDS, or if it'll stay banned throughout most of these matches. Of course, last time we saw these teams, it was disappointment for both, but for BDS, I think uncharacteristic underperformance.
Honestly, I had so high expectations of BDS coming into our summer playoffs, and the reason for that was just that they had looked so clean in regular season. Continuously throughout that regular season, they had improved. We had criticisms of BDS in the past that they were too stale, they weren't evolving, they needed more to get past teams like G2 and Fnatic, but it finally felt like they were at that point where they were going to do that. But then once we came playoffs, all their improvement just looked like they got washed away, and it felt like our expectations would never really lived up to.
Yeah, I want to draw you a picture, okay?
Nice.
GB is Talia jungle. He is Karthus jungle. He is whatever pick that they decide to hold on to, BDS.
Okay.
Despite it being nerfed countless times, they have a really hard time letting go. It's super painful.
You're BDS in this context.
And I'm BDS in this context.
And you're saying I'm nerfed?
My point is that they love to hold on to picks that they practiced, even though they might have been nerfed and they're just suboptimal, right? Their drafts have been a real issue. I think they draft compositions that are way too hard as well. My mind goes back to drafts including triple AD carry threats, as well as an AP jungler. And that's just so hard to teamfight with. When you compare it to drafts that, for example, G2 like to draft, where they can just draft 3 losing lanes, scale up, and win teamfights as well, it's super difficult. And because of their mid-game issues, I think they should veer away from this.
G2, of course, starting to feel like the common denominator for both BDS and Fnatic. And of course, Fnatic also do their fair share of criticism. I think the entire community came down pretty quick after that 3-0 final. It was catastrophic, it was back and forth, but I think kind of in general, we've talked about it enough, and it's something that I think we need to get that perspective from the side of Fnatic. This is a team and organization who, you know, let's see what they have to say. Let's see if they can speak for themselves. But before we get over to our interview with Nightshare, Goldberg, final thoughts, anything on Fnatic that stood out to you immediately? You want that one thing to stick with people before we talk to Nightshare.
I mean, it's just that late game, right? It's the fact that they had such a perfect position to close out all the game that they're playing against G2, and I think, once again, expectations of what Fnatic could do were higher than what they delivered.
Certainly. Late game, the expectation here, and for most of our fans, I think it's safe to say, but Trouble is now sitting by with Nightshare in the Marriott Bonvoy pre-game lobby.
Thank you, Dracos. I'm here with Nightshare. Thank you for joining me. Now, I know people want to hear a lot about you and what's going on behind the scenes for Fnatic, but I just want to ask you, how have you been? How have your players been? And how have you been, you know, working around this past 2 weeks?
Well, obviously, it's tough, you know, to lose finals against G2 and lose them the way we lost. So obviously the first reaction is always like, how do you deal with these emotions? You know, like sadness, regret, anger. But I think we've proved many times before that we always, you know, kind of get down and we stand up again. And I honestly believe that we did pretty fine on coming off from such a disastrous lose. I think everyone is kind of where they were before it. So I think we're good, yeah.
I'm happy you mentioned the emotions. Fnatic is known to be one of our more emotional teams. They work on emotion and momentum. And of course, coming off of this 3-0 when it was so damn winnable, and also the backlash from the fans. I watched a couple of the videos you guys uploaded over on your channel. Talk to me about the new people that you brought into the team to try and help with all those emotions and situations that are happening after such a loss.
Well, the new guy kind of coming in was Jonathan, who is our new performance coach. And he's basically there for, in short, for emotional and social support of players. So it's kind of like his lead to take that away from coaches also, so we can focus more on the game itself.
Now, I want to ask you specifically for your Koreans, because it must be so difficult, you know, the cultural difference, the language difference. How do you guys facilitate for them, coming off of such a weekend, to make sure that they are ready for what's happening this weekend for you?
Well, we kind of always joke about it. I think the ongoing meme inside of the team is like, Noah is fake Korean. So he's already, you know, like nationalized. I think he's somewhere between Spanish and Czech. And then, honestly, June is such a nice human being, you know. And then when he actually connects on the personal level, it's so nice to be around him. And I feel like even though they miss home, right, because Korea is just insane, I think they're pretty happy being around us and with us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for all the insights and best of luck today. Dracos, back to you.
Thank you so much, Trouble. Of course, a difficult thing to talk about, right, this loss, but I think all of our teams are just hoping to reset however they got here. It is season finals. You get a fresh start. You can kind of forget all the problems previously. So with that in mind, we want to take a look at all 6 of our teams. We'll introduce them as we meet them. So first up, I'm going to start with BDS. Let's talk a little bit about what this team does well, what this team does right, maybe some of the weaker areas as we get to take a look at it behind us. What are you guys focusing on?
I mean, I really love the mid lane performance from Nuke throughout summer playoffs. While BDS as an entire team kind of fell down into a slump in playoffs, I think Nuke was one of the standout players that continuously just kept the team afloat, and I think his Lucian specifically was the best Lucian in the entirety of playoffs, even going up against Caps. We saw him in again and again into the Corki matchup where his spacing and movement is just so clean in these matchups where it just feels like he has an edge when he's playing these AD mid laners, and it's so nice to see because he used to be known as just a control mage guy. Now suddenly he's also bringing this in, and I think it's really helping BDS to bring more depth into their playstyle.
Yeah, personally, I really like how they play for Dragons. I think even when BDS first started getting traction in the league, it was just this Dragon control that really like solidified them in the league. And I think, especially going up against a team like Fnatic, I think this is going to be crucial because Fnatic, as we saw against G2, really struggled around objectives. They kept getting caught out before, and they didn't really set it up properly. So I think this is really where BDS can have an edge over Fnatic.
Definitely something we have to keep our eyes on, right? That control on objective, especially mid to late game, it's been a question for a lot of teams. I think the other team that it's been a pretty big question for is Fnatic, but before we talk about the rough stuff, I want to start by talking about that 2v2 on the bottom side. It is looking pretty lethal.
Yeah, I mean, I think Fnatic often drafts for strong lanes and the fastest jungler in the game. Like, they like to pair Elioya up with Razor with a Syra or Brand that clears very fast, and then they want to give the tools for the lanes to fight. This gives Rasko a lot of options, and I think Noah and Jun has especially stepped up in this point because they keep generating these abnormal goal leads every single game. Now, can they finish on these goal leads? I think they'll figure it out because that's actually not that hard.
And I think that's a big part as well, because if we look at it isolated, Fnatic's early game was fantastic, and there's a lot of good takeaways to look at that. But also, thank you for that zoom in, because we can also see that even though you had those nice early games, it's even more demoralizing the fact that you've then lost these games. And I think that's probably the question on everybody's minds coming into a Fnatic series like this. Can they close games if they get good leads? Because they've shown the individual talent, they've shown the early game teamwork, but they haven't been able to show how to close out these games in a situation where it mattered. And it's only going to matter from here on out. It's season's finals, it's your way towards reclaiming what you lost against G2, and it's your spot towards Worlds.
Yeah, but I also think the way they lose these games are very simple. They keep getting caught in moments they should not. Because when you actually have this massive lead, the game kind of plays itself. You just push, you get vision, you get towers. And the game just keeps rolling like this, and unless something abnormal happens, you usually win the game. So I think they can actually fix this if they just cut back a little bit on their ferociousness.
The problem is, and this is the interesting thing about Fnatic as a team, right, is that their individual players are such a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, it's the individuals finding 2v2 kills in lanes. Yes, the draft sets them up for it, but it's still those, star-studded performances early on, maybe with a little bit of mistakes from the opposite side. I don't want to just pretend like those didn't also happen. But then those same individuals in the late game struggling to bring it home. And it's tricky against a team like BDS, who, again, we talked about at the start of the day, uncharacteristically inconsistent. But if they go back to form, it's going to be a tough stylistic matchup for Fnatic to play against a team who is so consistent.
But that's just a question, right? I love the way that you opened the day as well, Drake, because it is who will rise in a world where every single team could probably beat each other on the day, because there is inconsistency. We can't run away from that. Some of the teams are having a little oopsie moments, but some of them are always also looking clean at times. If you look back at BDS' first game against G2 when they played them in summer playoffs, that was a huge stump and it looked like they were just on point. If that's the kind of BDS that shows up against Fnatic, they should be scared. On the other hand, it's the same for Fnatic, right? If they are the team that just fixes these, what you call easy mistakes, Finn, it should be playable, right?
And we'll see how easy it is. We only have a few moments left, gentlemen. Predictions, quick down the line. We'll start with you, Finn.
I think BDS takes it 3-1.
Wow, that's
so not Faith. Apparently not that simple of mistakes, Finn. You said simple. You made it sound easy.
Difficult when you say it like
and you turned it around.
I just think BDS are so much more clutch in the mid game, and I don't think the goal leads that Fnatic got were normal. I said abnormal. This shouldn't happen. So if the gameplay is normal and BDS gets the lead, I think they win.
I still think Fnatic should be considered favorites coming into this. I think from what they've shown historically, but also just their form this split, I still think you can have high expectation for them. I do. 3-1 Fnatic.
We'll have to see. One prediction on both sides. That's going to do us here. Let's get into it. The season finals for the LEC starts now.